The woman was only playing the role of the chainsaw girl, but she never expected that her own boyfriend would become the victim. The scene was littered with severed limbs, showing that a brutal massacre had just taken place. The woman's name was Jamie, and when she stepped out of the cabin, she immediately ran into the police. The officers instantly treated her as the prime suspect and took her back to the station. A Halloween party had inexplicably turned into a cruel slaughterhouse. The police soon brought a cleaned-up Jamie into the interrogation room for questioning. Now, Dara strongly suspected that Jamie was the killer, but Jamie insisted again and again that she was also a victim. However, since Jamie was the only one left alive at the scene, the only way for her to escape suspicion would be if there was a witness. Dara then placed photos of the 4 dead victims in front of Jamie one by one. There were 4 bodies in total, with one relatively intact, while the other 3 had died in horrifying ways. Some had lost their heads and some had their insides completely ripped out. Dara wondered how Jamie could be so ruthless, but Jamie still claimed she had nothing to do with it. She said she had not killed anyone, then began to recount what had happened at the party. Just a few hours earlier, Jamie, her boyfriend Daniel, and 3 friends had gone to an abandoned cabin in the forest to celebrate Halloween. Velma wanted to make the upcoming game more exciting, so she locked the front door to prevent anyone from sneaking away. Then Daniel brought out an ancient weapon called the Eldritch Blade. It was said that this blade had nearly 500 years of history, and that it could summon creatures from the underworld. Hearing this, Velma curiously took it in her hands and casually twisted the switch on the handle, accidentally triggering the hidden function of the Eldritch Blade.
Oh, it's the real thing. Let's summon a monster.
Velma cut her palm with the blade, and soon the others joined in. But Jamie hesitated and instinctively refused. However, Velma showed a meaningful expression. Jamie and Daniel were both puzzled, not sure what Velma was planning. The next second, the other 2 pinned Jamie down, while Velma suddenly stabbed Daniel in the stomach. Immediately after, Velma turned toward Jamie, ready to plunge the Eldritch Blade into her body. It turned out that all the blood on Jamie came from Velma. A monster's tentacle wrapped tightly around her throat, and another pierced straight through her body. Velma, barely holding on, turned around only to see a monster baring its fangs as it closed in. In the end, Velma was torn apart by the creature. The sight terrified the other 2, but since the door was locked, there was no way out, and their fates were sealed. Soon the monster bit off their heads. Jamie, lucky enough to escape, found a phone and was about to call the police when she suddenly spotted a chainsaw. Seeing the creature about to attack Daniel, Jamie rushed forward without hesitation, swinging the chainsaw. But the chainsaw seemed to have no effect on the monster. Daniel quickly grabbed the Eldritch Blade, twisted the switch, and stabbed the monster from behind. The creature's body burst into a blinding light, and within moments it vanished into thin air. After the battle, Jamie was completely exhausted, and only then did she realize that Daniel was barely breathing. Finally, he died in her arms. And then she was taken to the police station. The 2 officers who listened to Jamie's story looked utterly shocked. Jamie knew that summoning a monster sounded unbelievable, but everything she said was true. More importantly, she explained that aside from her boyfriend, the other 3 had tried to kill her, and Daniel had sacrificed himself to save her. If they didn't believe in the monster, at least they should believe the murder attempt. Jamie also warned them that more creatures might come into the world, and that they had to stop it quickly, or more innocent people would get hurt. But the 2 officers thought she was making up nonsense, and they couldn't help laughing loudly. Just then, their superior, Landry, walked in. She told Jamie to confess to the truth and stop making up lies that no one would believe. But Jamie still stuck to her story. Left with no choice, Landry put Jamie in a holding cell with a vain and arrogant woman. Not long after, the police brought 4 unruly young women into the holding cell. They had been locked up for disturbing public order with their wild behavior. They kept blaming each other and arguing non-stop. Beside them, Jamie grew annoyed by the noise, so she pulled over an officer named Dennis who happened to pass by and demanded that he let her out right now. Dennis advised Jamie not to waste her energy. At that moment, another officer named Melvin appeared, reminding Dennis to go clean up the station. Soon, the 2 of them arrived at the forensic lab, where they saw the coroner, Casey, examining the Eldritch Blade. Casey discovered that the handle of the weapon had 5 symbols that could be rotated, almost like a combination lock. She confidently stated that cracking the code was only a matter of time. She had already noticed that the symbols resembled ancient hieroglyphs from a civilization that had vanished around 4000 BC. According to records, they worshipped a god from beyond this world, and even believed in the end of the world, much like cults today. Casey was now running a decryption program, and soon she would find the most likely symbol combination. As long as the puzzle of the Eldritch Blade was solved, they could determine whether Jamie was lying. Not long after, Dennis returned to the holding cell to resume his shift, and just as he was about to play a game on the computer, two of the girls suddenly asked for his help. Without thinking, Dennis grabbed the medical kit and walked into the cell. However, they were only tricking Dennis, and when he wasn't paying attention, they snatched the keys. While they were tossing the keys back and forth for fun, Ruth accidentally threw them outside the cell. Dennis, now locked inside the cell, was instantly dumbfounded. As he stood there helpless, Jamie crawled on the floor trying to grab the keys. Dennis warned Jamie not to even think about using the keys to escape, reminding her that the coroner was already working on the Eldritch Blade's code, and the truth would soon come to light, so she shouldn't do anything foolish. At first, Jamie only wanted to return the keys to Dennis, but when she heard that the coroner was deciphering the Eldritch Blade, she immediately realized the danger. If the Eldritch Blade was unlocked, it could summon another creature, and everyone in the station would be in grave danger. Meanwhile, Casey was rotating the symbols and testing the password when suddenly the lights began flickering strangely. In the next second, the Eldritch Blade clicked open, and a blade shot out, slicing Casey's palm, forcing her to bandage her wounded hand. But she didn't realize that at the very moment the lock opened, a terrifying creature had already been summoned into existence. It was silently lurking in the shadows. Soon the entire police station shook violently, and the staff at a nearby party froze in shock before rushing to the windows in panic. A dazzling light burst through from outside, then suddenly the shaking stopped, and everything returned to silence. Now the whole police station was plunged into darkness. The next moment, strange noises echoed in their ears. Out of nowhere, Larry appeared, startling everyone. He quickly tried to contact his colleagues through the radio, but only heard a chilling scream on the other end. In the blink of an eye, Larry disappeared. Dennis kept calling out Larry's name, but there was no reply. The darkness made it impossible to see what was happening. Then, Jamie picked up a flashlight and was horrified to see the monster tearing into Larry's body. The next moment, the creature turned its gaze toward the people in the cell. The first to be attacked was Big Jenny. The monster wrapped a tentacle around her leg and dragged her out forcefully. Her body was torn in half. The horrifying sight made everyone in the cell scream. While the creature was still busy feeding, Jamie quickly used the keys to unlock her cell door and escape. Then she rushed back to open the others' doors. Dennis suggested using a fire axe to fight the creature. Hearing this, Jamie grabbed the axe without hesitation, preparing to confront the beast. Just when everyone was losing hope, Jamie slashed open the monster's body with the fire axe, then burst straight out from inside it. Everyone was stunned by Jamie's strength, and they looked at her with admiration. Dennis finally believed Jamie had been telling the truth. The monster, badly wounded, chose to retreat for now, but no one could be sure it wouldn't come back. Dennis believed their top priority now was to call for reinforcements. However, 3 of the women believed that staying inside the sturdy cell was the safest choice, so they were forced to split into 2 groups. Jamie believed they first had to find the Eldritch Blade and send the creature back to hell. Only then could they stop the tragedy from continuing, so they decided to look for help. But when they reached the front doors of the station, they were stunned to see the entire building floating in midair, surrounded by countless monsters. The old man who had escaped with them became the first victim of the creatures. The horrifying sight left Jamie and the others trembling in fear. Dennis quickly led Jamie and Blair into the party room, only to find that the monsters had already been there and their colleagues had all become drained corpses. At that moment, Blair unexpectedly found someone alive hiding inside a cabinet. Dennis looked closer and realized it was his colleague Melvin. Soon they also found the governor and Landry in other cabinets. Jamie quickly explained everything that had happened. Only then did Landry finally believe the monsters were real. The governor was just about to speak when a piece of frosting suddenly fell onto his shoulder. In just a matter of seconds, the governor's body was corroded by the gas sprayed out by the monster. Seeing this, Landry immediately threw a bag of contraband into the creature's mouth. Moments later, the contraband began to expand inside the monster and eventually exploded. However, the monsters were far more than just 1 or 2, and they had to quickly find the Eldritch Blade and send them all back to hell. Meanwhile, the 3 women who had stayed behind in the cell had already reached the coroner's office. Now, everyone was finally gathered together. Jamie began assigning tasks to each of them. Ruth, being a computer genius, was given the job of cracking the Eldritch Blade's code. After that, they split up to begin their tasks. Not long after, Jamie, Dennis, and Melvin successfully retrieved the Eldritch Blade and prepared to return to the office to meet up with Ruth and the others. At the same time in the office, Ruth was studying the code of the Eldritch Blade with full concentration. Suddenly, a gaping hole appeared in the office door, and Crystal, driven by curiosity, crawled out through the opening to take a look. The next second, Ruth finally cracked the code. She and Blair quickly memorized the combination and hurried to meet Jamie. Blair took the Eldritch Blade, rapidly turned the symbols, and unlocked the code. As soon as all the symbols lit up red, the police station began shaking violently again. Moments later, the station returned to the ground and everything fell silent once more. Everyone thought they had succeeded in sending the monsters back, and they hugged each other in excitement. But Jamie still looked worried. Blair reassured her that everything was over. No more monsters would harm them, then handed the Eldritch Blade to Jamie. But the moment she took it, Jamie's expression instantly changed, and she stabbed Chelsea straight in the mouth. Everyone around was shocked, staring at Jamie in disbelief, but her eyes made it clear. This was not Jamie. She twisted the symbols on the handle, and a green light flared in her eyes.
I am the destroyer of worlds, the never-ending darkness, the abyss at the edge of the universe. Basically, the mother of all monsters.
It turned out that the mother of monsters had been possessing Jamie all along, waiting for someone to help unlock the Eldritch Blade. Her power had been sealed inside the Eldritch Blade, and now, with the code broken, she was free to regain her strength. The real Jamie had already died in the abandoned cabin, and the others had also fallen at her hands. Now the mother of monsters had used Jamie's body to remain in this world, but she could not touch the Eldritch Blade directly, so she came up with a plan. She deliberately got herself arrested so the police would take her to the station, knowing they would try to crack the code and release her power. At that moment, Landry rushed forward with a chainsaw and drove it into her body. But to their horror, the mother of monsters had the ability to heal, and Landry too became a corpse. She then activated the Eldritch Blade, and the sky burst into blinding light. The survivors seized the chance to escape from the police station, but no sooner had they left than the entire police station began floating again. After a heated discussion, they realized they couldn't just walk away. To protect the world, they had to stop her. So they drove their car straight into the beam of light. The light carried them back into the police station, where they finally confronted the mother of monsters. They fought her bravely and managed to seize back the Eldritch Blade. Blair used it to slash off the monsters' tentacles one by one, until only the mother of monsters remained. The 4 survivors joined forces, driving the Eldritch Blade deep into her body. The mother of monsters let out a deafening roar. In the end, the police station finally returned to its original place, and the mother of monsters was successfully banished back to hell. They never expected that they would become the heroes who saved the world. That was the full story of the 2025 British horror film, How to Kill Monsters. The overall plot is quite smooth, and although the small budget made the effects look cheap, the viewing experience is still entertaining. If you enjoy this kind of film, you might want to check out the original. That's all for today's video. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.